very much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Yatish Lele and I work as an Associate Fellow at the Energy and Resources Institute, a leading organization working in the field of energy, environment and sustainable development over the last 4 decades. India is signatory to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD, and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is the nodal ministry for the Government of India that oversees the implementation of the convention in the country. As the Desertification and Land Degradation Atlas of India 2016 says, the current extent of land degradation is estimated to be 96.4 million hectares, covering 29.3% of the geographical area of India. At the recently concluded COP14 of the UNCCD, which was hosted by India, the country's land degradation neutrality target was set at 26 million hectares by 2030. This would decrease India's degraded land to 70.4 million hectares, considering the baseline as 96.4 million hectares, helping the country achieve its land degradation neutrality targets. So today's webinar will focus on the analysis of current emissions and sequestration potential, as well as future potential of sequestration or emission reduction of 5 different land use sectors in India in order to achieve the land degradation neutrality. These 5 land use sectors are basically the forestry sector, consisting of forest and tree cover, animal husbandry sector, wetlands, mining, and agriculture. So just a small announcement before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question and answer box in your WebEx control panel and the name of the person the question is addressed to. I will bring them up at the end during the designated question and answer session. So without any further ado, I request Dr. Ajay Mathur to deliver the welcome address. Dr. Mathur is Director General of TERI, the Energy and Resources Institute, and a member of the Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change. He was Director General of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency in the Government of India from 2006 till February 2016 and responsible for bringing energy efficiency into our homes, offices, and factories through initiatives such as the Star Labeling Program for appliances, the Energy Conservation Building Code, and the Perform, Achieve, and Trade Program for energy-intensive industries.
Thanks, Yatish. I want to welcome all of you to this seminar. I am especially grateful to Secretary Environment for his time and his interest in this subject. I want to thank Dr. Alka Bhargav, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Jigme Tapka, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Mr. Umakant, and of course my colleagues, Dr. J.V. Sharma and Dr. Reena Singh for participating in this meeting. I also welcome all the participants who are here. I want to especially thank the leadership of the Ministry of Environment and particularly the Secretary and Joint Secretary in providing the leadership on bringing together the land discussion issue in this country. The land degradation has been a major issue, but it was for a variety of reasons put on a back burner. But I think by hosting the CCD conference last year, we have succeeded in bringing it to the front burner. Now, we have brought it to the front burner. The question was, how do we move it ahead? A lot of this land is, as was just mentioned by Yatish, under forest and tree cover, Ministry of Environment and Forests, under agriculture, Department of Agriculture, and there is also land which is on various other things, wetlands and so on, mining, etc. I'm very grateful that we have representatives of the Ministry of Mines, Mr. Umakant, we have representatives of the Ministry of Environment and Forests, Mr. Tapka, and of course, Dr. Alka Bhargav from the Ministry of Agriculture. We hope that all the people concerned, all the ministries concerned with land degradation are here at one place. Now, as we look forward on how can we achieve land degradation neutrality, and you heard of the targets, and I think each one of you know them far better than I do. As we looked at those, we saw that there is a huge convergence in terms of the job creation potential, in terms of the incomes that occurs because of enhancing the value of these lands. Now, enhancing the value of these lands would imply that we move them from land degradation to more productive uses. In such a case, obviously, what also happens is that they become sequestering carbon rather than producing carbon. So another benefit that we get out of it is that the move from a carbon emission category to a carbon sequestration category. One of the things that we tried to do was to assess that in this degraded land, in this land that we have, whether it is forest and tree cover, or it is animal husbandry that happens on it there, or wetlands, or mining, or agriculture, what is the kind of emissions? Because that would give us a feel of the kinds of benefits, and through a process of either internal within country or global carbon trading, what is the kind of resources that we could attract into the sector so that we convert this from being land from being degraded land to being land which is positive in terms of both its usefulness as well as in terms of its carbon emissions. I must confess, and I don't want to take the thunder away from Dr. Sharma and Dr. Reena Singh, but I must confess that it kind of surprised me that the total emissions from the 5 land use sectors in 2020 are estimated to be about 1 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. Now, this is very large. And obviously, the kinds of impacts it has both on the economy as well as on the environment are issues that I think are important. But most of all, what I would like to emphasize is that they represent an opportunity to see how we can monetize the benefits of creating emissions reductions and ultimately maybe even sequestering emissions so that it becomes a net neutral land area. Again, I want to thank all of you, and I particularly am grateful for the time that the Secretary Environment has provided to us. And without further ado, can I request Shri R.P. Gupta, Secretary Environment, to share his thoughts with us. Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mathur. And it's my pleasure to inaugurate this webinar on the study which has been carried out by Delhi on estimation of the current emission and sequestration, carbon sequestration, as well as the future potential of sequestration and emission reduction to achieve land degradation neutrality in India. As we all know, land is a building block of the whole biosphere and all air, water, nutrition, and energy cycles. Loss of biodiversity and climate change, they are the root cause for degradation of the land, and achieving land degradation neutrality and restoration of degraded land are going to be instrumental in conservation of biodiversity and mitigation of climate change. Land is both a source as well as a sink for the greenhouse gases, and it plays a key role in exchange of energy, water, and aerosol between the land surface and atmosphere. As atmospheric temperature increases, soil organic carbon decreases, and so decreases the soil capacity to act as a sink for carbon sequestration. Thus, climate change also intensifies. This loss of the land directly contributes to loss of soil organic carbon, decreases rate of carbon sequestration, and results in decline in land productivity. Recently released IPCC special report on land degradation and climate change 2019 referred that during the period of 2007 to 2016, agriculture, forestry, and other land use activities accounted for about 23% of total net anthropogenic emission of GHG globally. In addition to this, the IPBS report on land degradation 2018 indicate that by 2050, the combination of land degradation and climate change is predicted to reduce global crop yield by an average of about 10%, and it can be as much as up to 50%. Thus, reclaiming degraded land is very important for the survival and prosperity of humanity and for maintenance of all terrestrial ecosystem. Reducing and reversing land degradation at scales accelerate the accomplishment of countries' two major national commitments related to climate change and land degradation. In addition to that, efforts for rehabilitating degraded land could result in achieving even closely related sustainable development goals. Those are goal number 1, which is reduction of poverty, goal number 2, zero hunger, goal number 3, good health and well-being, goal number 5, promote gender equality, goal number 6, clean water and sanitation, goal 8, decent work and economic growth, and goal 13, climate action. Thus, optimizing the use of land resources through sustainable land restoration method is very important for both economic and environmental development of the country. India is committed towards addressing the fundamental cause of all issues related to environment and ecological preservation and conservation in an integrated and coordinated manner. Because of India's deep and serious concern in this regard, India took the lead in convening the 14th session of Conference of Parties of United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification in September 2019, where India took the presidency of UNCCD Scope Bureau for next 2 years. During the COP14 of UNCCD, the Honorable Prime Minister of India announced India's aspirational goal to achieve land degradation neutrality and restore 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2050. He also announced that India is willing to share and extend knowledge, technology, training through South-South Cooperation Initiative to the countries who wish to adopt land restoration strategies and activities. In this connection, a Center for Excellence would be set up in Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, that is ICFRE, Dehradun. During the COP14 of UNCCD, the Delhi Declaration was adopted, in which the member countries called for better access, control, and stewardship over land and gender-sensitive transformative projects at national level. The national commitment of reducing and reversing land degradation is an ambitious goal and could be achieved with the collective efforts of all the ministries by channelizing and implementing the ongoing programs and schemes in a targeted and timely manner. Land being an important multi-sectoral component, Government of India is striving towards sustainable land management practices to prevent, mitigate, and improve the degraded land for ensuring ecological conservation, food security, and livelihood generation at community level. All these efforts address not only land restoration, but also deliver climate change adaptation and mitigation benefits, addressing the holistic movement of land ecosystem, environment, and livelihood through sustainable land management practices. The present study, which has been carried out by TERI, comes out with the following. Quantitative analysis of existing data related to greenhouse gas emissions, and carbon sequestration of different land use covers of our country. Co-benefits of certain changes in land use practices in reducing both the GHG emissions and reclaiming the degraded land. The projected scenario of increasing GHG gas emissions and land degradation in 2030 and 2050 in various sectors of India. The possible policy and program interventions of ongoing schemes and programs at national and state level to achieve two major national commitments of reducing atmospheric temperature and land degradation. Government of India approach and concerns at strategies highlighted in this study to achieve land degradation neutrality are in tandem. It would be appropriate to take the deliberations further to make it more robust and sound in order to address the issues related to land restoration in our country. Government of India is already seized of this issue and has taken a number of steps to collaborate, coordinate, and partner with different stakeholders, including central ministries and departments, academic and research institutions, and civil society organizations. With this note, I may conclude that combating land degradation and restoring degraded land is an urgent priority to protect the biodiversity and ecosystem services vital to all lives on Earth and to ensure human well-being. This study could be indicative in strategizing and scaling up the land degradation restoration activities in different sectors of India and could be helpful to achieve two major national commitments relating to land degradation neutrality and climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving your valuable insights on today's topic and on the issue of land degradation neutrality. I would now request Dr. Alka Bhargava to present the overview of the role of agriculture sector in land degradation neutrality in India. Dr. Alka Bhargava is Additional Secretary in the Department of Agricultural Cooperation and Farmers Welfare. She belongs to 1987 batch of Indian Forest Services from Assam Meghalaya cadre. Her earlier assignments in Assam and with the Government of India have given her a wide perspective of community development through the tools of engagement in forest management, vocational education, and skill development, and now related to sustainable agriculture. Over to you, Alka ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and congratulate Terry first of all for organizing this session on a very pertinent topic actually. And I'll just give an overview of the role of agriculture sector in this entire conversation. And as your report also points out, and as in the biennial update report also, 16% of the emissions are attributed to agriculture and allied sectors. So, I mean, agriculture sector in India is extremely important, and it has actually gone vast transformations from earlier ship to mouth kind of existence to now a major agri-produce exporting country. And the net sown area in the country is 14 crore hectare, out of which the irrigated area is about 47%. And the importance of this sector is that 54.6% of our people are agriculture workers, which includes both cultivators and agriculture laborers. And talking about the production, I mean, right now we don't have a problem of production. We have rather an issue of managing surpluses. So the grain production in last year was 274 million metric tons, and horticulture has seen a rapid increase to 313 million metric tons. So with that backdrop, now our major concentration, especially from if you look at the LDN angle, is how do we maximize our production from the same, because there is not much scope of increasing the crop area. So our focus is on increasing productivity, cropping intensity, targeting rice fallows, crop diversification, etc., so that there is less, more production with less burden on the natural resources. So talking about more sustainable use of natural resources. So as we all know, like the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture is anchored with us, and it's one of the 8 missions of the National Action Plan for Climate Change. This is actually not a single scheme, but it cuts across the agriculture sector, and the major schemes which it encompasses is the rainfed area development, which I'll talk about later, which is really a very high potential scheme for reducing emissions. And in fact, some of the models which have been worked out are actually carbon neutral or even carbon negative. And then we have our focus on organic farming, which together with rationalized use of fertilizers has an impact on improving soil health and hence reclaiming land or reducing land degradation because of unbalanced use of fertilizers. So we have a small scheme, which I mean, monetary-wise, it may not be very big, but it has an impact in the sense that it is for reclamation of problem soils, alkali, saline, and acidic, etc. And this has been carved out of our major umbrella scheme, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. And the main purpose, and this is being done in 16 identified states where there is a major problem of these kinds of soils. And the major objective is to bring these lands back into cultivation, either crops, horticulture, fuel wood, plantation, etc. So that, I mean, the natural resource is also sustained as well as you have additional income to the farmers. Then, I mean, the major schemes which look at carbon emissions and carbon sequestration sink concept are the two agroforestry and the bamboo mission, which everyone knows about, so I'll not be talking about it in too much of length. And these are the ones where we really have that mitigation effort impact, together with horticulture, agroforestry, bamboo. So these would be the three programs where we could actually talk about mitigation. Otherwise, largely agriculture talks about adaptation with mitigation as one of the, the subsets. What I was referring to, the integrating farming system, ICR has developed about 60 models, agroclimatic zone-wise models, and this includes integrated organic farming systems also. So this becomes very pertinent in the sense that now the landholding size is decreasing with each generation, and due to other factors, the land holding is decreasing over the years. So from the same cropping land, the farmer should be able to optimize its use. So instead of just having a single crop, we are advocating a combination of crops and agroforestry and horticulture, poultry, fishery, piggery, etc. in various combinations suiting that particular agroclimatic zone. So this has actually been worked out. I mean, it is doubling farmers' income, or even it's going beyond that, the returns from these systems. And in fact, this is a very good mechanism for risk mitigation also. Because if one thing fails, then you have another, income source for falling back on. And coming to the greenhouse gas emissions, is that what has been worked out is the sustainability index ranges from 0.5 to 0.9. And this is through the orchards, the boundary plantations, agroforestry, recycling. There's a lot of bit of circular economy also there, because waste to wealth, like all the crop residues going into vermicompost, etc. So that is helping to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And 22 of these models are either carbon neutral or negative, which offers a scope for more intensification. And we are taking these models through our rainfed area development program to the states. So almost all the states are on board. And the regional offices of ICR and their All India Coordinated Research Programs, they are handholding the state governments. And now through this also, 13 SDGs are being addressed directly, and 4 are through landscape and cluster-based models. And 6 of these models with 4 interventions have been identified in each of them, have been developed, which can be used for setting up climate-resilient villages. Now, when we talk about climate-resilient villages, we are aware of this national innovations in climate-resilient agriculture, NICRA, which is it's commonly known as the program of ICR, where initially the 151 districts, one village in each district was made into a climate-resilient village. And now, over the years, it has gone into a cluster mode, so that it is going beyond that one initial village. It's being now implemented in 151 clusters involving 446 villages, and about over 2 lakh households, covering about 235,000 hectares. So this is for large-scale demonstration of location-specific resilient technologies that address major climate vulnerabilities such as droughts, floods, cyclones, heat waves, high temperature stress, cold waves, frost, etc. So this is one of our flagship programs which we are trying to take more and more to the ground and helping the states to develop these methodologies together with the climate resilient varieties which have been developed by by ICR, and proactively these are being promoted for plantation in the fields. So these are some of the programs which are everyone's familiar about. But the quarterly report which we give to MoEF for under NMSA, we've got 10 parameters which we report upon. And picking up from the latest BER, which was given in December last year, through all these efforts, micro irrigation is also a very priority sector for us. So from 2010 to 16, there has been an emission reduction of 22.82 metric tons of carbon dioxide. The crop diversification program, which is another important program which we are trying to dovetail now, cropping patterns with the agroclimatic suitability. So that has resulted in a reduction of about 0.21 metric tons of carbon dioxide from 2010 to 16. Rice cultivation is a major producer of methane. So we have two systems, the system of rice intensification and direct seeded rice. Both of them have given a reduction of about 0.18, 0.17 from in this period of 10 to 16. Then this neem coated urea, which has actually transformed the way fertilizers are being used, this also has had a spin-off in the way of reduction of 8.89 metric tons from 2014 to 2016, when it was actually rolled out, and to 2016. So in fact, when we talk about fertilizers, everyone knows about the soil health card program. The huge, one of the, I think maybe the largest kind of soil health program in the world, where all the farmers were given soil health cards in 2 phases. So along with that, now instead of more testing, we are going into more proactive demonstration of balanced fertilizer use. In fact, Department of Fertilizers is having a huge Chintan Shivir on fertilizers, cutting across agriculture, ICR, and all, and especially the industry farmers, of how do we rationalize, how do we have balanced use of fertilizers. So that will have a huge impact on emissions also, and also for retaining the health of the soil, of the agricultural lands. And also the focus on organic farming. So how do we have integrated nutrient management, integrated pest management, so that we are moving towards more of organics rather than just the chemicals, which not only spoil, have an effect on the land, but also on the water bodies and human and cattle health, the fishes in the water bodies, etc. So that all is being addressed through a focused approach on organic farming. Then horticulture sector has, the carbon sequestered is estimated to be about 137 metric tons from 10 to 16. Then when we talk about the livestock, the 2 major components of the animal husbandry in NMSA is the balanced ration for livestock, which resulted in emission reduction of 0.28 metric tons, and bypass protein feed mechanism, which also resulted in a reduction of 3.86 metric tons. So this was in a summary of what our programs are about, and CREDA, our institute in Hyderabad, they are the ones who are crunching all the data given to them and how the emissions are being affected, and they are in fact the think tanks for us in all climate change issues. So that in a nutshell is what we're doing, and in fact we need to work more proactively in this. And I'd also like to hear about what, in fact, Watershed, DOLR is also an important partner with us in all this. So, so that's about all, and I'd like to hear more about from the other participants also. How do we go ahead and meet the commitments which we've done to in the UNCCD COP? Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for all your insights, especially on the different programs and models related to agriculture and animal husbandry, which will surely help us achieve land degradation neutrality by reducing emissions from the agriculture sector. I would now request Mr. Jigmit Takpa to present the status of land neutrality targets and India's commitment to UNFCCC. Sri Jigmit Takpa is an officer of the IFS from Jammu and Kashmir cadre and presently serving as Joint Secretary and heading the Desertification Cell Control of Pollution in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. Sri Takpa is also national focal point for the UNCCD, which is the sole legally binding international agreement linking environment and development to sustainable land management. Over to you, sir.
First of all, I have to congratulate, as Ms. Alka Barger said, it is a big work done, especially on land degradation and climate change. And I think it is a point that we have been taken up after the COP, that we are seeing that land degradation, climate change, biodiversity has been now it's been mainstreamed into all the program projects of the Government of India and agencies and various organization, institutional research organization. They are taking up this very issue, and this, as Dr. Mathur has rightly said, this very issue of land, on which all the biodiversity exists, on which climate change is directly affected, has earlier has taken a back burner, and after the conduct of the COP, now it is being taken as an issue. It is being discussed at almost most of the forums, saying that it requires an equal, if not more than other issues that we are facing today. So my presentation is a bit long. I will try to cut it short, that wherever the presentation is I think being repeated, I will try to skip it, so that I will be finishing my time by 3:55 exact. By that time I will finish it. So coming to my presentation, I'll start it. I think it's online.
No.
It's coming, sir. No.
No, sir.
Just a minute. I will try again.
Sir, click on the third icon, share content.
Yeah. I'm doing it again.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. The definitions of land degradation, desertification, and all these things I would like to skip, and the extent of land undergoing degradation around the globe or in India, and what are the other issues, I'll try to skip. But one thing I would like to point out, what are the major process of the degradation in India? The other figures has been told, but the main degradation in India is mainly because of the water erosion, vegetation degradation, wind erosion, and other processes. So these are the main drivers of the degradation. These are the facts, that most of the things that I will share the presentation with everybody, that they can see it. And that was a land degradation around the globe. This is the land degradation in India. Then what is the total land degradation that is taking place? The percentage-wise human population, the global percentage of India to the global land, and the country's total land degraded area. And another word, the economics of land degradation, I will take up later on, and cost of land degradation. I will try to skip it so that I can get more time to the main issue. This is about agriculture, because as Ms. Alka Bhargav has said, that India is doing extremely well. India ranked among the highest in the world, especially when it comes to the net crop area. That is one point that is very, very critical for India, because we have the highest net crop area in the world. So this means now we don't have much area left for expansion of agricultural land. There may be, we can bring some more area under crop area, but beyond that, as the population is growing, as the production and consumption is going, aspiration of people are growing, and there's more need of land for infrastructure requirement. So therefore, land will be a big issue. So another point is that as the population is growing, that the production, as Ms. Bhargav has said, we have at present about 275 million tons of food grain, and it is also growing at an equal pace with the population. But ahead, what we need to do is, area is now limited, therefore productivity we have to improve. So productivity we can only improve once that land is taken care of. We come to a land which has become more productive, and we try to restore the land which has been degraded. Those are the issues that we will discuss ahead. And one point I would like to bring it to the this August gathering, because every time it is conceived that any land is degraded when the vegetation goes off from an area. That is the concept everywhere. But when we see the science of the land degradation, we take mainly three things. One is the land cover, that vegetation that we see, whether it is agriculture or the forestry or the agroforestry or the pasture land. So vegetation cover is one thing. Second most important thing is the soil organic carbon. So that has not been talked, but the TERI report has done extensive work where we have seen what is the total carbon stock in the country and what is the emission out of carbon stock. That is a very welcome work that is done by TERI. It will be really we'll be using it for our further discussion and further policy and program that will be taken up. Another thing is land productivity. Land productivity is not only the soil organic carbon, but it is a function of NDVI, normalized differentiated vegetative index, that we see from that is the green part on the top. Second thing is that it is soil moisture. Third is the precipitation. So three components makes the soil productivity. So all the three things, three components of the soil productivity, it is done through satellite mapping, and it is done through a software which is called Trend Earth. This is a plug-in software used in the QGIS. So through QGIS, we need to take all the data from the remote sensing, and we have to work around it through this plug-in software, and we come to the data that I'm showing it now. As per that data, what we are finding that forest area is about 71 million hectares. Agriculture land, it may be more or less, but it is, as per the software, it is coming about 166 million hectares. Non-agriculture land, non-forestry land, that we say common land, the panchayat land, the area not available for cultivation or uncultivated land and waste land, all put together, this very group of land, it is about 69 million hectares. And if you see the degradation, we see the highest degradation in this wasteland, the common land, panchayat land. Highest degradation is in that area. Second degradation we see, it is in the forest area. It's 28%, and at the third it comes the agriculture land. So coming to land degradation neutrality, it is a concept in which the amount of land that is degrading, we try to recover it through the mechanism of avoiding, so that not to use it to area so that the resilience of the land goes away, or reduce the degradation, or third thing is the reverse the land degradation. So these are the concept, three building block for setting land degradation neutrality target. So this is a symmetric diametric description of land degradation neutrality, where new degradation and it is reversed by the reversing the land degradation, so that loss and gains are equal, so that there's a neutrality which comes up, and because of neutrality, so there will be human well-being, food security, and healthy environment. So that is the concept of land degradation neutrality. Land degradation, this is a map. This very map that you see has been made by this Trend Earth, QGIS Trend Earth, and using the National Remote Sensing Satellite data and the Space Application Center data. All the raw data has been fed into this very program, and we come up with the three main things. One is land cover, land use change. Then secondly is the soil organic carbon change. Third thing is the land productivity. So after working on three aspects of land degradation, then we superimpose them and we come up with land degradation map of India. So in this there are three main components: land area that has been improved, land area that is stable, and land area that has been degraded. So coming to India, we are very fortunate that land degradation we have improved a bit, because as also NASA says that it is in the world that it is in India and China where the vegetation and the other thing has grown better. So this is land degradation. Land cover degradation map of India. It is mainly, you see that most of the area are improving. Greens are improving, yellow are stable, there's no change, and the brownish part is that there's a degradation. These are the mainly area which is arid, semi-arid, and dry sumid area. So this is land cover hotspots, which we say how much area has been improved, how much stable, how much is degraded. This is the total calculation. Here we can see, there's 2 points. One is negative trends and positive trends. Negative trends, here we say even if it is an increase in crop land, in the UNCCD definition, it is taken as negative. If there is a loss of grassland, it is negative. That is 31% degradation of the grasslands. 18% increase in the cropland, that is also taken as negative, because this I will show it how it is being changed, how the cropland has increased. Artificial land, that is area like infrastructure, urban sprawls, road construction, other area which is artificially we have created, and other land which is the natural land which has not cultivated, or the wasteland. Those are the areas, and water bodies. So you see that major degradation that we find is mainly because there's the grassland, it is decreasing immensely, and cropland is increasing, and artificial land is increasing, and other lands are decreasing, that the wasteland and other areas are decreasing. So this is a trend that is being, we come through visualization of this software. And positive trend is that tree cover, the forest and tree cover area in India is increasing very marginally. Wetland to some extent has increased. I don't know how the software says it, so maybe they are showing to all the area which has been inundated. So that is not a positive trend, but we need to do more research on things, how the wetlands are increasing. Wetlands in India are decreasing, but maybe the waterlogged area is increasing, but the satellite data, it takes as a wetland. So this is a negative trends in which increase in cropland, increase in artificial land, decrease in grassland, decrease in other land and water bodies. So this is a negative trend in land degradation. So this is the main matrix on which all other things works. How tree cover, grassland, cropland, wetland, artificial lands are changing from one land use type to another. like tree cover is changing to grassland, cropland, wetland, artificial land, other lands and water bodies. So you see the trend here. What we find, the blue part is shown as blue. This is positive, and all the reds are negative. So tree cover changing into grassland is negative, cropland is negative, wetland is positive, because the wetland biodiversity is much more productive than even from forest land, artificial land, other lands. So all put together, we can see that area like tree cover, it is a overall negative change is higher, positive change is less. Grassland we find more of negative. Cropland more negative. Artificial land is artificial land because there's not much it's zero here. I'll explain later. And when we see, these are the total area of tree cover, grassland, cropland, how this dynamics is working, which land use type is changing into what. So this is done through this this very matrix. So I have to catch up with the this. This is about this land productivity. So there are 5 main category, whereas productivity is declining, moderately declining, stressed, and stable and increasing. It is done through this software. And these are the hotspot area where the land productivity increasing or decreasing, and whether it is in the grassland, wetland, cropland, and artificial land, whether it is declining, stable, all the data has been generated out of this software. This is about the soil organic carbon, shows the whether it is declining or stable or improving. So like productivity we had is almost same, that soil organic carbon also in the area where there is a arid and semi-arid and dry subhumid areas. In this area, the soil organic carbon are declining. Rest other places in the Gangetic Plain and the coastal regions and the southern India, the soil organic carbon is increasing. So this is the matrix of soil organic carbon. This is the hotspot areas and other estimates. There's so many different estimation of land degradation in India, but most authentic we are using it, the Land Degradation Atlas made by a Space Application Center and National Remote Sensing Satellite. So we are trying to harmonize with both these atlases. So this is a classification made by the Space Application Center. I would like to point out, because here we have agriculture, we have rural development, we have research organization. There are no standards for the land classification. Every department, every ministry, every organization, they have their own land use classification. Because of that, it becomes very difficult to harmonize the land degradation, even land degradation, and classify the land. So these are the various type of possible degradation that is taking place. And economics of land degradation, it was done by theory, which says that cost of land degradation in India is 3,177 billion rupees, which amounts to 2.54% of India's GDP. And mainly 82% of the cost is due to land degradation, and 18% is due to land use change from one category to another category. So these are the drivers of the land degradation and what we do, and these are the various activity and projects and programs that ministry is taking up for combating land degradation. And this is being taken up by our Honorable Secretary. I will not catch on this UNCCD COP and the commitment that we have done. Rather, I will come to the what are the tentative targets by the various ministries. So we have circulated our cabinet notes to all the ministry, and we have received their feedback, which says that it is there are three main field players dealing with land degradation and land issues. That is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Department of Land Resources, Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. So they have so many programs and schemes and intervention. And for that, we are going to achieve the target of 26 million hectare by 2030, starting from 2015. So every ministry has given the targets. So if you see the targets, we think that it should have already been accomplished by 2020. We should have been worked on 36.15 million hectares, and between 2020 to 25, we are going to restore 33 million hectares, and 25 to 30, we are going to restore 13 million hectares, totaling about 83.32 million hectares. That is the what called the targets. It is the just target, not that achievements. So this is various schemes of the Ministry of Agriculture, cooperative and farmer welfare. They have all the missions, their programs, and their targets, and restoring land. So total, they are coming to about 18.8 million. Ministry of Rural Development, they have sanctioned projects which amounts to about 20 million hectares of land by 2020, and after 2020, they have another 20 million hectares to achieve by 24. So we have Ministry of Rural Development under the NG Narega schemes. There are so many schemes which relates to plantation, land reclamation. So exact targets we don't have, because that is more of a employment generation. So we are working on another issue, that is land water energy nexus modeling. So that would be a tool which could be assist in land, water, and energy and climate change. So this is a small presentation. I completed on time. Thank you for giving me time to present my presentation.
Thank you very much, Jigmeet sir. Now, before we move on to our next presentation, I would like to request all the participants that in case you have any questions, please put your questions in the question and answer box in your WebEx control panel. So now I would request Dr. J.V. Sharma and Dr. Reena Singh to present the concept paper on estimation of the current emission and sequestration, as well as future potential of sequestration emission reduction to achieve land degradation neutrality in India. First, we have with us Dr. Sharma, who is a 1983 batch retired IFS officer from Uttar Pradesh cadre, who is presently working as Director, Land Resources Division, TERI. Then we have Dr. Reena Singh, who is a mycorrhizologist with a doctorate in microbiology, currently working as Associate Director, Sustainable Agriculture Division in TERI. She has been working on the execution and diffusion of greener and sustainable agriculture solutions in India for over 20 years. Over to you, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Yatish. Just a little background. Globally, 2 billion people and 1.9 billion hectare land is affected by degradation. Globally, and economic loss is around 18 to 20 trillion US dollar. Now I am coming to the country. We have conducted earlier one study on economics of desertification and land degradation and drought in India, which many things Mr. Jigmeet has mentioned. I like to highlight over here that we have land-related overlapping institutions as well as overlapping schemes. Data scarcity is too much, and it was very, very difficult to harmonize the data. And some agencies says it is 140 million hectares, some says it is 107 million hectares. So after addressing some of the on the basis of the parameters, we have harmonized the extent of the degraded land in the country is 96.4 million hectare, and loss of the 3177 billion rupees, and it is 2.5% of the GDP. And I like to again emphasize over here, because this is very conservative figure. If we have the right kind of data in place, the adverse impact on GDP of the land degradation and drought will be much more. And out of which 1.41% means 55% is from forestry and forest degradation. Why it is so? Because Forest Survey of India is continuing and compiling the data from since 1987 biennially report in form of the ISFR. So even there are many issues with the ISFR, but still it is the best document available as far as land degradation data is concerned in the country. And I like to highlight again some of the point of the ISFR. ISFR, there is always chances of improvement. Given figures in forest cover and for tree cover, tree outside forests and tree cover, and also the greenwash area. So the area is different, and forest cover definition is different. So national forest, how much forest cover and forest cover is there within the recorded forest, it is not known. It may be known to the FSI, but it is not known publicly, and it is not available in the secondary literature. So that we must come up with the facts, and FSI must come up with the facts that how much forest cover within the recorded forest area and how much cover outside the recorded forest area. On the basis of the informal discussion with the then Director General of Forest Survey of India and present Forest Survey of India, that approximately 20 to 25 million hectare of the forest cover lies outside natural recorded forest. So it means the role and importance of the agroforestry, farm forestry, and farmers has become very, very and key and important role. So this is in a nutshell about what I like to mention over here. And we found a bit difficulty how to divide the total land cover and how to estimate the emissions. So we have taken 80.72 forest and tree cover together. Agricultural land, we have given the sources here, and some of the land non-agricultural use and barren and uncultivated land we have not estimated, because these lands are in different other use, so that it is covered. Emissions estimations have been covered by the different other sectors. So we have kept limited ourselves forest and tree cover, agriculture, animal husbandry, wetland, and the mines. And objective of our study was analyze the emission of different land use sectors in India, analyze the status of the sequestration of different land sectors, analyze emission reduction, because every land use sector will not sequester the carbon dioxide. So the emission reduction from different land use sector, analyze the future potential of sequestration to achieve the land degradation neutrality. Now we have come out with the figure, the forestry sector contributing around 48% is the major contributor for the emissions out of the 5 sectors, followed by agriculture and the animal husbandry. And the details we'll be discussing in the coming slides. Now I'm coming to the forestry sector. The fuel wood have the 93% of the total emissions from the forestry sector in the country. And again, I'm highlighting the point that in 2011 report of the Forest Survey of India, they have given 216 million tons of the fuel wood is being used, out of which 58.75 from the natural forest, rest from the tree outside. You see the contribution of the tree outside forest. in 2019 report, in between 11 and 19, no assessment was done by the Forest Service of India. In 19 again they have assessed, and they have assessed only the how much wood is coming from the natural forest, that is 85.29. You see the 58 to 85.29, and we have done the trend analysis, and on the basis of different parameters, we have come out that around 275 million tons of the fuel wood is being used at present in 2020 or 2019 in the country. The total CO2 emissions are 503 million tons of the CO2 alone from the fuel wood consumption. The emission in 2030 will increase to 57. I'm not finding the figure over here, and by 2050 it will be 620. Now question will arise. Many people will ask question. Ujjwala scheme is in place. Many more other schemes in place. Why this trend is there? Because we are assuming that 150 billion people in 2030 and maybe more in where we stabilize our population. And number two, Ujjwala scheme is there, but on the basis of many study and our own research in Assam state, that people are not able to refill the LPG cylinder. So like once LPG cylinder is there, even though the dhabas and the restaurants, their subsidy has been stopped, they started using the fuel wood. So that these are the aspects. On the basis of that, we have given some kind of the projections. Maybe some different other policies in place in future, these projections will be changed. Next, please. Now, another factor of the emissions is paper, pulp and paper. We can say that there's a time of digitization, the paper use will be less. But in the packaging, after because we are not encouraging the use of the plastic and other raw material as a packaging material. So the paper is being used by when you have the delivery at home. So in most of the time, this is the paper and pulp based. So the 27.52 million tons, and it is projected as 38 and 49 for 2030 and 2050. Forest fire. We know that there are forest fire, but 8.18 million tons, and we know that this is underreporting figures. We have analyzed the data of many other states, but this data is available and on the basis of the 2019 report. So we are restricting ourselves because we have not done primary research, so that without doing primary research, we cannot say. So we are relying on this data, and this is 8.18 million tons of the CO2 for 2020. And next, please. Yeah. Overall emissions, we see that the total estimated CO2 emissions from fuel wood, pulp, paper, and forest fire is 539 million tons. It is increasing trend. This is for 2020 and 2030, 626 and 681. So we have gone through the different policies and programs of the government, different commitments of the government, and on the basis of that, we have projected these figures. But the figures of the 2020 on actual basis, but and on the basis of the data available with the government records. Status of sequestration. Situation is not that bad. It is now good. In 2020, we are net sequestration 539 is emission, and our sequestration is 631. The data we have, data and the factors, this is we have taken from the Forest Service of India, and we have just calculated. And you see that sequestration from the forest is 631 million tons, and outside 293.84. As I mentioned earlier, that 25 to 30 million hectare is overlapping and it is outside. So that the 631 is forest cover. So that this tree outside forest part will be much more than in sequestration from the natural forest. So that scope of the enhancing carbon sequestration within the natural forest is much more, and we have to tackle reduce the dependence of the people living in and around forest. The number is around more than 300 million people, and then we can definitely increase the sequestration capacity and potential of the natural forest. On the basis of the study we have done forest environment project for the Assam state, the LPG saves 90% efficiency and 90% reduction of the emissions in comparison to the fuel wood. Improved cooking devices saves 25 to 35% emissions in comparison to the fuel wood. And if we implement the Ujjwala scheme in the true spirit and people are ready to refill there, then definitely we can replace 453 million ton, and that is substantial part of the emissions from the fuel wood if LPG. Carbon neutrality policy and the registry of the carbon transaction at national level will boost the sequestration under the umbrella of polluter pays principle and the payment for ecosystem services benefit. We are keep on debating this subject. Supreme Court has delivered the judgment. Article 21. Article 21 is the only article of the Constitution of India which is for every person in the country, not the citizen. Whosoever living in the country, that is for that. And the clean environment and the health is the fundamental right. So, and under the sustainable development or polluter pays principle, this is a very basic foundation of the creation of the National Green Tribunal. So that sooner the better, we must come up with a kind of carbon neutrality policy for the betterment of our environment and for the betterment of the carbon transaction and benefit to the rural people and poor people who are involved in the conservation and protection of the forest and the farmers who are involved in the agroforestry programs. Implementation of agroforestry policy, I like to have attention of Dr. Alka Bhargav in true spirit. Schemes are there and also create better market for agroforestry produce and such as higher import duty. Recently, government has taken decision, one decision recently, quality planting material, rationalizing transit and felling rules, and rules on wood-based industries. I give you two examples, Punjab and Haryana. They do not have that kind of the restrictions. Raw material from the western UP, all material goes to the Yamunanagar. So like in Uttar Pradesh, there are restrictions. So government of India is also trying, state governments are also trying. And here, one of my solution is that in the coming time and in future, that many more export and the many companies will be buying certified wood, whether it is from government forest, whether it is from the agroforestry, so that transit regulation in any other form to maintain the chain of custody is important. But it should not harass the farmer, it should not harass the trader, it should not harass the businessman. So that one of the suggestion is from our side to the government that once transit permit or the chain of custody permit, whatever you say, given by one DFO, it should be respected throughout the country. That decision has to be taken at the government of India level, because one state, right now what is happening over there, government of India is issuing the guidelines. Some states are implementing, some states are not implementing. So that on ground, people are not having the benefit of the guideline issued by the government of India. National Forest Policy 1988. Draft policy is in place. Slogan must be grow more wood and use more wood, enhance forest-based livelihood and sustainable use, with sustainable use of resource and water conservation. So these are the policy aspects. Of course, 88 policy does not. 88 policy provides the provision of substituting wood by the steel and others, but now the time has been changed, and we have to sequester more and more carbon. And out of total wood, only 30 to 40%, 30% goes for the fuel wood and emission form. Otherwise, 70% of the wood goes to the log for 15 years, 20 years, or 30 years in form of the furniture and the infrastructure. So these are the suggestions. If I come to the animal husbandry, so in animal husbandry, total 248.58 million tons of the CO2 and 18% of GHG emission of India. Livestock production results in the methane emissions from enteric fermentation and methane and nitrous oxide emissions from the livestock manure management. Manure management we have not considered here, that has been considered under the agriculture sector, so that we have not taken over here. If I come to the mining sector, again we face the difficulty of the data. Mining sector is contributing for economy. Carbon emissions from mining sector result during conversion of the forest land to the mines. And we have given a thought to it that the total land diverted from the forest for mining purpose under the Forest Conservation Act is 1.14 million hectare. And total carbon stock, here we have considered only the soil organic carbon. Since above ground biomass has already been covered under the other forestry emission sector, but the carbon stock of soil organic carbon stock of that mine area has been lost, and the total, we cannot say that it is an annual, but from 1980 to 2018 we have done the totaling of that 24.14 million tons of the equivalent carbon dioxide we have lost from the mining due to the diversion of the forest land for the mining purpose. Here, again, we have also felt the constraint of the data. The fugitive emissions, the baseline figure was available from 2005 only, but for 2020, the estimated 25.66 million tons, and we have given on the basis of certain parameters kind of projections till 2015. Wetlands has not been covered till now. Wetlands, first time we are considered, and wetlands cover about 5.8% of the Earth's surface and contain 20 to 25% of the global terrestrial carbon, that is 350 to 535 gigaton of the carbon. So that this is the importance of the wetlands. We have to take care of the wetlands. And total figure of 14.7 million hectare wetlands are in India. Wetland figures are different. Post-monsoon 8.6 and pre-monsoon 5.8, because some of the water has been dried up during the dry season. So that this is a Space Application Center figure of 2011. The emissions is 28.63 million tons, and sequestration is 23.10 million tons for 2020. And now this is a message for us that we are net source as far as management of the wetlands in the country is. We have to take care of the wetlands in a better way, and thus wetlands in India are acting as a source than sink of greenhouse gases. This is maybe due to the drainage of the large area of wetlands and their subsequent cultivation at many places, making the net source of CO2 as soil organic matter previously stored under anaerobic conditions is aerated and exposed to the atmosphere. So that one of my students is also doing his PhD thesis on the Sursarovar bird sanctuary, that is a man-made wetland, and even in a man-made wetland, that is a carbon stock is 6 to 7 times more than a woodland. So that if we like to maintain the carbon stock within the wetlands, we have to take care of that. And I stop here now. For agriculture sector, I request my colleague Dr. Reena Singh to explain and to apprise us regarding the emissions and potential of the reducing emissions from agriculture sector. Dr. Reena Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sharma. And concept and objectives. So I will just go straight to the study that has been done for agriculture. So as we know that agriculture, it accounts for 46% of the land use in India. And as Dr. Ralka has clearly pointed out that more than 54% of the workforce is involved in agriculture in India. So it reflects how important this activity is for India. And Indian agriculture is the second largest greenhouse gas emission contributor in this world. And in this agriculture, it predominantly contributes to the emission of basically methane and the nitrous oxide. And they are mainly coming from the fermentation, enteric fermentation, synthetic fertilizers, and the rice cultivation. So these are the three categories of emissions that are major contributors in agriculture. And this agriculture, it has already been pointed out as Indian NDC's goal that, the climate resilient agriculture has already been picked up. So all the climate resilient agriculture plans have been made and are being proposed and has also shared by Dr. Alkar. So this is very good that India is taking good steps in this direction. So keeping this in view, so what we have done, can I request to move to the second slide? Yeah, so what we have done under the agriculture sector, we have categorized and done the detailed study of the emission levels under the 7 major heads. That is the burning of the crop residues, the cultivation of the organic soils, the cropland, the management of the soils, the manure management, rice cultivation, and synthetic fertilizers. So I will just come to the detail of what I mean by this. Like for the burning of the crop residues, we know that emissions from the burning crop residues, it basically they are comprising of the GHG gases which are formed by the combustion of the percentage of crop residues which are burned by the on-field fires. So these biomass which are available for burning, they were estimated considering the portions which are removed from burning due to the animal consumptions, decay in the field and used in other sectors. So we have taken all these points into consideration, like they have been used in biofuel, domestic livestock feed, building material, etc. So what we have estimated, the average emission of the carbon dioxide equivalent from burning the crop residues of the agricultural land, we found it to be 3,700 gigagrams. And we included 4 major crops for this estimation, and they are rice, wheat, maize, and sugarcane. Why we have included these 4 crops? Because rice is a major contributor, like 50%, more than 40% of this emission, like 1881 gigagram, which is followed by wheat, which is 24.5%, and then maize, which is 18.3%, and the sugarcane residues, with 6.5%. So these are the major contributors for the emissions from the crop residue point of view. But with the current public awareness, policy, and the technological interventions, anticipating, like we are projecting that it should close down to 3,000 gigagrams by 2030 and expected to remain nearly the same until 2050. So this is what our estimation is. On that basis, we have done the estimation. Because there are many technologies nowadays which might, they will be taking care of this burning residues. Then the second category that we have done in details is the crop residues. Now with the crop residues from the GHG emissions from the crop residues, they consist of the direct and indirect nitrous oxide productions from the nitrogen in crop residues and the pastoral removal left on the agricultural fields by the farmers. So generally, more specifically here, I would like to say like this nitrous oxide is produced by microbes of nitrification and denitrification, which is taking place on the deposition side, which is actually the direct emissions. And then after volatilization or the redeposition and the leaching process, which is the indirect emissions. And what we have found, like the average emissions 2005 to 2017, in that duration of the carbon dioxide equivalent from the crop substitutes of the agricultural land, we found it to be 23,685 gigagrams, which is actually the 9% of the total agricultural substitution. And I think that from this sector, we are projecting it not to be changed much over the next 30 years with maybe minor initial decline. And we have considered the residues of the 9 major crops such as barley, beans, maize, millet, potatoes, rice, sorghum, soybeans, and the wheat for these estimates. And what we have figured it out that out of these, the rice, wheat, and maize crop residues, it contributes 80% of the crop residual emissions. So our recommendation from this study is like we should have a specific technological interventions which are able to manage these crop residues, these 3 crop residues, because they are majorly contributing to the residues. Then the cultivation of the organic soils. We have done the cropland organic soil subsector of the cultivation of the organic soils, and it actually comprises of the assessments of nitrogen oxide emissions accompanying with the drainage of the organic soils using histosols as the proxy for agriculture. And GHG emissions from this sector, this organic soils, it remained almost stable at 608 gigagrams in 2005 and projected to rise little above 630 gigagrams, and we are expecting it to remain unchanged until 2050. So the prospects of targeting GHG mitigation options centered on mapping approach of organic soils. So this is good. And expansion of the cultivated peat soil is not a sustainable option for this region, where economic importance of the production is comparatively low. And there's this GHG mitigation potential is, we feel it is high. Now the manure applied to the soils. Now emissions of the nitrogen oxide from the application of manure to agricultural soils, it comprises of direct and indirect nitrous oxide emissions from the added compost by the farmers. And specifically nitrous oxide, they're formed by the microbial roots of nitrification and denitrification, which is taking place on the application, as well as the indirect emissions that are taking place. So we have considered this. And India's total emission, direct, both including direct and indirect, average from this subsector is 15,147 gigagram. It is expected to see a quantum jump of 143% by 2052. 21,505 gigagrams. For the manure management, what we have done is emissions from the manure management, it consists of the methane and the nitrogen oxide gases from aerobic and anaerobic manure decomposition processes. And what we have obtained the data gathered is that the total emission average from this subsector is 28,385 gigagrams, and it is expected to see a quantum jump of 126% by 2050 to 35,769 gigagrams. So there are several manure management practices are proposed to reduce greenhouse gas emission potential, including the wide use of small-scale dome-digested anaerobic manure digestion, which have been suggested for the small farm holders, which has a reduction potential of 50%. Rice cultivation, it is actually the largest emitter, and India is the second largest GHG emitter at rice cultivation. And we are thinking like we are projecting that maybe it is going to be reduced significantly, 77% to 74,844 giga by 2013, expected to remain stable until 2050. We have those data with us, which are on that basis we are projecting this. And then the synthetic fertilizers, which is basically the emissions from the synthetic fertilizers, and they mainly consist of nitrogen oxide from the synthetic nitrogen additions to the managed soils. So here the average emission of the carbon dioxide equivalent is, which is actually 1 lakh, more than 1 lakh gigagrams, and it is expected to steadily upsurge 57% to 178,000 by 2050. So massive emission from the subsector needs considerable attention for the emission reduction by the use of next generation technology in the policy. Emissions from these subsectors and other, it is coming out to be 2,71,036 gigagrams, and is projected to be 3,05,000 gigagrams by 2030 and 3,41,000 approximate gigagrams by 2050. We have also done the emissions from the land use, the cropland, from the where we have taken the carbon emissions from the drained histosoils into the cropland and done those estimations. So, yeah, what we have done for the projections and for the estimations, we have used this IPPU AR5 formula where the carbon dioxide equivalent of greenhouse gas is calculated as, like for the methane, it is 21, it is being used, and for nitrogen oxide, it is being used 310. So for calculation purposes, we have used this equation throughout. And that is how we have done this entire study for calculating the emissions. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now we have, Dr. Alka has already explained all the future potentials and what the ministry is doing with respect to the mitigation and adaptation. So I'm not going into that, like conservation practices, the zero tillage and biofertilizers, the energy things. So here I just want to briefly touch like what our institute TERI is doing. So we have we are continuously working and world leaders with mycorrhiza technology, where it has a potential to reduce 50% of the chemical fertilizer. So if we are able to reduce with this biofertilizer, so it has enormous potential. And moreover, as Dr. Alka has rightly pointed out, we cannot increase our land use area for agriculture. So whatever limited resource we have to utilize that. So it has the potential where we can cultivate the agriculture and other croplands under the wastelands and degraded categories, because we have demonstrated and it has that potential. Second thing where I just want to briefly touch upon is the potential for nanofertilizers. It's not yet for reducing the greenhouse gas potential, but the nano small size and a higher surface area. I mean, it just replaces the quantities. Like if chemical fertilizers are needed in kgs, and these fertilizers, they're just needed in few grams. So that's how it has a lot of potential, and we will be able to save a lot of chemical fertilizers, and definitely the savings related to it, and it also reduces the leaching part. And there are other modern technologies, like we have the CRISPR technology, and there are we have this GHG compliant genetic selection, breeding and genome editing technologies, which can be looked upon, so that we are breeding and we are using those varieties which can actually reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And definitely, it requires a multidisciplinary approach, multiple R&D institutions, farmers, and policymakers to collectively address this complex challenge and meet this national system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma and Dr. Reena, for such a wonderful presentation on the status of estimation of emissions and sequestration and its future potential. Now, I would request Mr. Umakant ji to present the role of rain-fed and degraded lands in India in realizing land degradation neutrality. Mr. Umakant ji is an IFS officer and presently working as Joint Secretary in Department of Land Resources, Ministry of Rural Development. He has served as a divisional officer in Arunachal Pradesh and in Delhi as AIG in MoEFCC. Over to you, sir. I would just share your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very good afternoon to all esteemed speakers, and it's very good opportunity for me to be part of this August gathering and a knowledgeable person. The topic especially concentrates on emission part, and I beg to seek a pardon from Sharma sir and all others that I have not touched upon anything about the emission and sequestration. But of course, by mentioning the fact that the role of rain-fed and degraded land is very, very crucial for addressing the issue of land degradation neutrality, for which MoEF has been the focal point. So I'll start by mentioning, just go to the next slide, please. Yeah. On this slide, though I have presented the national context, but many things have been covered, I will especially focus on bullet number 3, where I have mentioned, can this portion will be removed? Is it possible? So, it's not coming. Anyway, for the sake of development of rain-fed and degraded land, Department of Land Resources during the period of 14-15 to June 2020 developed to the tune of 23 million hectare. What Takpa sir was mentioning, that we have given a figure by the time the input was requested by MoEF, that was 20.50. But now we have moved, we'll be deliberating a bit about this figure and the other slides which is coming. And of course, see, I have shown that 62 million hectare area is still to be developed. This is the point where the quantum that I am showing as the area to be developed, and what Ministry of Environment is mentioning, roughly 96.5 million hectare. This is the concern where we have to make an attempt, sincere attempt at Government of India level to harmonize the data available, so that for future references, we should be on the same page. The last point in this slide is the challenges. One, data harmonization is understood by one and all. The other point, what I'm referring to, is verifiable achievements on LDN. I have requested, I'm in touch with the MoEF, and I was told that IUCN has been given this responsibility to prepare a matrix on which the LDN parameters and achievements should be reflected, and it should be made internationally acceptable so that it could be verified at any point of time, and it should be meaningful. This is the approach where MoEF should be, I think, taking the responsibility. This is very much required for the international community to accept our data. Another point was transforming data on internationally accepted metrics. It relates to the second bullet, second B part I have written. And of course, the last one, ensuring sustainability of development of rain-fed and degraded land, becomes very important when we achieved, as I mentioned, 23 million hectare. If it is not sustainably maintained for a period for maybe posterity, then we will again fall back on the same situation. This is the case of all the developing countries, where we have to concentrate and we have to somehow maintain the achievement for the future generation, and this sustainability should give a certificate internationally acceptable, and we should move on for adding another quantum of degraded land to be brought back into the fold of LDN. Next, please. On this slide, though it's not very pertinent, but little bit of background. 95, 2009, initially DDP and DPAP was there in existence, where hardly 15, 16 states were participating, which they were taking the development of these areas in a patches, that those were creating a lot of problems for the entire landscape. Later, it was transformed into IWDP, Integrated Wasteland Development Program, and then it got into transformed into IWMP, which is now up to 2015 Integrated Watershed Management Program was there, and during this time, the entire amount of land degraded, what achievement I am projecting for these, all the programs, projects were sanctioned during this period. That's why I have given an evolution how this program has evolved. After 2015, now the IWMP was made as one of the components of the umbrella scheme, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. So this is just a bit of evolution. Next, please. This slide, I have presented the entire scheme of things, what is being done. Altogether, 8,214 projects have been sanctioned. Initial target was 39.07 million hectare to be developed. However, in the year 2018, 1832, it is not 1837, in place of 1837, it should be 1832 projects were transferred to the state governments because those projects were not initiated on time. They were languishing rather, they were not cooperating. That's why these many projects were transferred to the state governments, and Government of India was left with 6382 number of projects, and accordingly the proportion of revised target was reduced to 29.57 million hectare. Out of this, what I have mentioned in the initial slide, we have achieved almost 23 million hectare by completing 63 or 64% of projects till date. This is updated up to yesterday, and the remaining projects are there shown in the work phase and consolidation phase, which I am trying to get at least 70% achieved for the next generation of WTC project to be taken up. Next. This is the slide which gives you the kind of parameters taken into consideration, and for the period starting from 14-15 to up to now, first quarter of the 2020, 6 parameters have done tremendously commendable achievements are there. The first 3 rows were those parameters were given by the Niti Aayog, which have been captured since 14-15, and the latter 3 bottom 3 lines are showing those parameters which were given by Niti Aayog once again, but it was given in 18-19. Therefore, we have collated the data and presented these figures. Just to highlight, this is very important to understand that at the time of approving this project, this rather scheme, a target of 11.5 lakh hectare was given to be achieved by undertaking all these projects, whereas this scheme has already achieved 14.55 lakh hectare, which is shown in the total, say row number 2, which you can figure out. And this is a good amount of achievement has been made. And so far other parameters are concerned, this is equally important. This is employment generation is taking place. Culturable wasteland treated for incompleted closed projects have been given. Afforestation activities have been taken up. Farmers benefited in lakhs figure has been given. Area brought under protective irrigation has been mentioned. And then water harvesting structures have been given. All these parameters which we have selected for the recording the achievements will somehow or the other will give us a leverage to realize those goals for which LDN is meant for, and Government of India is really trying to achieve these parameters in a promising way. Next. This slide and another 2 slides I have presented just to make you give you a feel what kind of work have been done in the project area, especially not entire state of Andhra Pradesh or Maharashtra, and other 2 slides are there to show you the kind of distribution and kind of parameters, indicators they have taken, and the achievements they have made. Of course, these areas are only in the project areas. Water table has gone up, cultivated area has gone up, crop productivity has gone up. These 3 parameters are quite common to all those 2 states. Crop production and crop intensity have gone up. Some of the parameters or indicators shown below area under water bodies, milk production, vegetation cover, out-migration, annual income, etc. These are the parameters which are not as per the template, but of course, this gives an understanding that this scheme has been taken up by the community very nicely. They are really prompt to take up these activities, and these are the outcomes where the community is getting benefited largely. Next one. This is meant for Karnataka and Rajasthan, and the next one is the Nagaland. This is representative from the northeastern states. These 5 sample states have been given. Just go to next. Yeah. And to make it verifiable, what we have done, Srishti Geoportal and Drishti mobile app have been put into place since 2015-16, so that all those activities which have been done in the field should be geo-stamped, geo-coded, so that at later point of time, this could be verified. As on 21st of July, almost 13.30 lakh photographs have been uploaded on the website of Bhuvan, and NRSC is doing this at the background. So this is very reliable, and really we are banking upon this data very positively. Next. Now, having said that, my intention, since this centrally sponsored scheme is going to get over by 2021 March, my intention is to take up another 20 million hectare, what was being presented by MoEF, that the certain amount of 20.5 million he has indicated there. And this 20 million hectare has to be taken up for the period up to 23-24 at the rate of 5 million hectare per year. Guidelines have been finalized, where we have incorporated all those learnings of the past, and we have almost finished the EFC memo. It is being taken by the umbrella scheme PMKSY, and most likely, given the situation under Corona, I am hopeful that the government of India would be in a position to support us, because the land degradation neutrality target is there. But having given the tax collection, etc., which we appreciate, let us see how it moves and unfolds. Way forward for me is, we have done cost revision. Initially, it was 12,000 to 15,000 for the plain and hilly areas. Now it has been raised up to 22,000 and 25 or maybe 28,000. Recent calculation has shown. EFC memo has been almost finalized. It's going to the minister now. Guidelines is with the minister's office, most likely will be getting through. Climate mainstreaming has been focused on the in the new guidelines, because up till now, whatever scheme, whatever program was being taken up, this is not in the center stage, but now we are focusing on that. National Rain-Fed Area Authority, NARA, is the technical agency who is supporting us and who has done the groundwork for the development of the new guidelines. LRI activity, I will just focus on whatever activity on degraded land are being taken. Our intention is to concentrate on land resource inventory, because the actual realization of potential would be possible to bring back the culturable, these degraded land into culturable fold sustainably, will be with the help of LRI only. Of course, this technique is not very much in practice, but some of the states have done. Karnataka has been the pioneer in this. They have done Sujala project for last 10 years, and we are trying to take Karnataka's help, and I'll tell you how we are moving ahead a bit more detail. FPO, SHGs, UGs are being taken care of. FPO is coming in a big way, what Alka ma'am has just mentioned. This is one of the area where we have to concentrate to upscale the economy of the SHGs and UGs, so that it becomes functional. Close monitoring from center is very much required. MoEF is supposed to give us, officers for this scheme. I'm in touch with the DG Forest. Fortunately, he has given a DIG here posted. Another DIG and AIG are supposed to given to the DOLR for running this show. Likewise, effective convergence is one of the area where Government of India is concentrating very, immensely nowadays. You are well aware that the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, GKRA, etc. are being taken up. All these activities of Har Khet Ko Pani, PDMC, MG Narega, agroforestry scheme, fisheries, animal husbandry, lottery, and all apiary, etc., has to be dovetailed so that the benefits of these schemes should be collated. Otherwise, we have been working in silos. Therefore, the achievement of goals are becoming a little difficult and remaining elusive. Capacity building of the state government, Government of India, Panchayat, and watershed communities for the participation of local community. This scheme is very, very robust because since beginning, the watershed committees have been involved, Gram Sabha meetings have been held. Therefore, their partnership was very, very crucial for us. And that's why this kind of achievement, what we saw in the physical parameters, has been there. The strengthening of institutions involved in implementation is equally important. With passage of time, I have seen that the institutions which were supposed to update this data on MIS and GIS portal, etc., this is not performing the way I am expecting them to do. I'm trying to jack up their activities, strengthen them in terms of funds and in terms of the manpower, etc. Next. Yeah, this I was talking about. There is an effort being made by Department of Land Resources. We are in touch with the DEA and World Bank to have this LRI technique, what I was just mentioning, that with the help of World Bank, I'm trying to exploit their loan amount, which were sanctioned earlier by having another scheme called Niranchal. Now the amount remaining with the Niranchal was plowed back in the shape of reward, that is called Rejuvenating Watersheds for Agricultural Resilience through Innovative Development. This scheme is in formulative stage. This loan component is there, but my intention is to have the LRI technique compulsorily implemented by the partner states, where the pilots will be available in Karnataka, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh, who have agreed, given their consent to take up this loan amount under the separate agreement with the World Bank, and they will take up this project where LRI will be a pilot, and that will be emulated by the other states. Will be trying to make them the reference point so that other entire country would like to come in touch with these states, and they visit their area of operation. And this is being done in the saturation mode. Every inch of the project area will be thoroughly studied in terms of soil health, in terms of the water available, in terms of the potential for the crop suitability. Everything has been merged so that the LRI technique will be cooperating us in a best way to realize the potential available in the field. DOLR has got a very small role to play. This is merely the anchoring, of course, coordinate with the state government. There is a possibility of other states also to come on board. We'll monitor their progress. We'll try to get them national and international knowledge exchange. South-South cooperation is one of the scope where we would like to get the state government in touch with the other countries like South Africa, and African countries are also coming on to cooperate us on this. Next. From my side, this is the last slide, and then I'll give you some pictures, the kind of work have been taken. This is the actual concern where the LDN is going to help us. NDC, we know, I have mentioned the internationally accepted matrix has to be prepared. IUCN is working on that. MoEF is well aware. Unless this is made ready, and the program like ours, where the activities have been taken in the field, if the parameters, physical parameters, are not in consonance with the acceptable, verifiable, activities, achievement in the field, at a later point of time, it may create a situation where we will not be able to meet their challenges. Climate resilience, we are now in the new generation of WDC. We are taking this into account. Sustainability has been a challenge, which I mentioned early in the beginning also. We have got a small amount of WDF, Watershed Development Fund, but I have seen practically that many states are using this fund effectively, but many states are there in country out of the 28 and UTs, they are not utilizing this amount, and that's why the post-project maintenance remains a challenge for us. So we are trying to convince the state government to be aware by taking IEC activities involving the local community, and this WDF should be utilized properly to maintain the post-project management in a sensitive way, so that the sustainability should be maintained. LRI I have mentioned, I don't think I should go in detail. Land, of course, there is a challenge. Land remains, as we all are aware, that the state subject, where any activity what we are taking is with the help of state government only. We are hand-holding them. They are taking these activities, but the funding pattern of Government of India and the state government in recent past 3-4 years back, it has been changed from 90-10 to 60-40. State governments are raising this issue time and again, that 40% contribution from the state side is becoming really a challenge for them, given the meager resource generation at their end. Convergence I have mentioned, this is one area we are trying to really focus upon. Last but not the least, my understanding, personal understanding is, for making such a scheme successful, the local leadership is very, very critical. I have cited 3 examples, though many examples are there. Sorry. Hibre Bazar in Maharashtra, Ralagaon Siddhi again in Maharashtra, Piplantri is in Rajasthan near Udaipur. These 3 models I have seen personally. All these 3 success stories are revolving upon the only leader which is available in the given scenario. In Piplantri, Shyam Sundar Paliwal is the guy who has appeared with Amitabh Bachchan on Kaun Banega Crorepati, and I have met him personally. The kind of dedication he has got in driving this show, it shows that for making anything possible in the field, one has to be sensitive about the leadership role. I would request, and I'm trying my level best to create more and more success model on this type. And for making successful, this is my take, that the local leadership holds the key to success.
So I would please request you to end the presentation.
This is my last slide. I'm just giving you just a roll about some of the pictures. I will show what kind of activities are being taken. Go one by one. It will be, this bottom line caption is there, that will make clear. This is in Rajasthan, this kind of activity. Just go on scrolling. Yeah. This is Chitradurga district, Odisha. Yeah, again Rajasthan. This is in Karnataka, Kolar district. This is again Kolar district. At Tripura, Gujarat, Karnataka, sprinkler model. Yeah. Yeah, this is. Thank you. Thank you for my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It was indeed a wonderful presentation, and there were some really important key takeaway points from your presentation. Now we will begin the question and answer session. I can see that we have already taken, we already have a few questions with us, but due to paucity of time, we may not be able to take all of them, but our panelists will try to address as many as they can. So moving on to our first question, it is directed to Dr. Sharma. Sir, the question is that India has started collecting of information and monitoring of data regarding the forest emissions and capture of carbon after signing the protocol. Then how is the status now for achieving the 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon? Then in addition to this question, there is also a question which states that that we know that there is a decline in carbon stock primarily due to the destruction of dense forest, then to what extent can plantation drives and commercial plantations make up for the carbon sinks lost in deforestation? Dr. Shri.
Yes, me.
Yes.
Yes. As far as the 2.5 to 3 billion tons of the equivalent carbon dioxide additional, you see the target taken by voluntarily by India, 2 times additional word has been used. So first, government of India has to decide, has to quantify the how much carbon has to be enhanced by 2030. And government of India, we have recently conducted a webinar on this also. And in my opinion, the baseline year should be 2015. And on the basis of 2015, over and above BAU, we should quantify the target. Then we distribute this target to the state governments, and state governments should prepare their strategies and plan. They are needing financial resource. They are needing some policy interventions, institutional strengthening, and capacity building. It's not that we provide money and the target will be achieved. So that these 4 or 5 aspects are needed, and the decision is pending at the level of the Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, and they must take decision. And target has been taken in 2015. Now we are in 2020, and early the better, then we will be able to achieve. As far as you have asked that we are losing the carbon and how we can enhance with the afforestation and the plantations. There are 2-pronged strategies must be there. The natural forests are there. There is a dependence of the more than 300 million people. They are deriving unsustainable harvest of fuel, fodder, and many other forest produce. So this should be kept under the sustainable limit by providing them alternate livelihood, etc., and enhancing their income. So forestry problem of the degradation lies outside the other sectors. There, as I mentioned, that if we provide LPG and refilling of the LPG cylinders to the people living in and around forest, definitely there is a 90% emission efficiency over there. Now I'm coming to the plantation. Yes, we have to provide and facilitate the kind of environment and motivate farmers to grow more and more wood and sequester more and more carbon, so that we can sequester it, and whatever the wood is being produced by the carbon by the farmer under the agroforestry and tree outside forest, 70% will go to the log in the form of the furniture, in the form of the infrastructure, so that this is one way we can achieve the target. But we have to decide our target, quantify it, distribute it, and prepare a strategy and try to achieve that.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we have a question for Jigmeet, sir. Sir, the question is, what can be the role of indigenous knowledge for combating land degradation?
Knowledge management is the prime thing, especially for land. So since beginning, the land management was a prime concern. Since the beginning itself, since the beginning of the civilization. So there is a lot of knowledge. It is already available. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it is all the traditional knowledge, traditional practices that is used. They don't actually at present, like in climate change, you all the time talk about finance, you talk about technologies, transfer of technology. All the time you talk about transfer of technologies from other countries. So there is no need. When it comes to land, the traditional knowledge, traditional techniques are all the time all available. If you go to the Deccan area in Maharashtra, in Karnataka, we have all kind of water conservation structure. In Rajasthan, we have all kind of water conservation structure, land conservation structures. So all the techniques, knowledge are available in locally. So we don't require any other knowledge which has to be brought from that advanced country. So local knowledge is to be applied for sustainable land management, sustainable use of resources. So that is very, very important. When we use the traditional knowledge, local knowledge, local techniques and management of the resources, we can, you can have a sustainable land management. And not only land management, all other resources, you can manage it very well.
Okay, thank you very much, Jigmit sir. Now I would request Dr. Alka to please present the concluding remarks along with answering this question about the stable burning in Punjab, and are there any policy interventions where emissions can be reduced, especially in Haryana and Punjab?
Problem which the stop burning problem. This is one of our major focus. And about 2-3 years back, we also had a separate, in fact, we have a division for agriculture mechanization in our ministry. So they have been making a concerted effort for giving equipment to the farmers as a good bit of subsidy there for FPOs as well as for the individuals to buy these kind of machineries where you can have things like direct seeding, zero till, and transplanting of rice, etc. So that there is less of this requirement of cutting and burning the crop residue. Because ideally we want it to be mulched back into the soil so that it can be composted. But since the window is very small, so some of the times this may not be possible, especially for the rice. And also about 2 years back, we also launched a scheme specifically for Punjab, Haryana, Western UP for increased supply of these mechanized of these equipments for cutting. In fact, when we were doing, I mean, this is largely been happening because of the use of combined harvesters, because a bigger stubble is left at the bottom. So we were giving these happy seeders so that you can have direct dibbling of the seed. You don't have to cut it, and you don't have to remove it. This has come up in a big way because, and some of you might be knowing, we also have custom hiring centers where the farmers can rent, like you have a Uber or a Ola taxi, you can rent those machines on a per hourly basis. And for that, we also have an app so that the farmer will know in his vicinity which are the custom hiring centers, what machines they have, and what are the rates. So then offline he can talk to those people one-to-one. This was one, and then I mean, this has been a good study by Terry, and we would like to, all of us, I think, would like to have the full report so that we can discuss it with the concerned divisions and other colleagues also, both, say, for us in my department as well as with ICR. So we look forward to that. And then there was the thing about the nano fertilizers and organic. So that, in fact, nano fertilizers, ICR has been partnering with IFCO for conducting the trials. Because for inclusion in the FCO, fertilizer control order, we need to have trials which has been simplified now. Earlier it was for 2 seasons. So now it is just for 1 season and multi-location trials. So those trials are finished. They've given positive results. But simultaneously, we have also contacted Ministry of Health, because since these are nanoparticles, they might have some toxicity for human health. So combining these two reports, we would be, I mean, putting it to our Central Fertilizer Committee for inclusion in the FCO. That is one. And what Umakant was talking about data harmonization, that is very important actually, because we have all kinds of data floating around everywhere with different, coming out of different studies, different ministries, different programs. So having that as one will be really good. What Takpa had shown in his presentation, how they have demarcated the degraded lands and etc. If that the granular data could be shared with other industries, then we can pick up from there. because like for agriculture, we have two major institutions working on this. One is Soil Land Use Survey of India, and the other is the National Bureau for Soil Survey and Land Use Planning. That is an ICR, and the SUC is with us. So we can share with them also, and so that we actually tell the states that, okay, these are the degraded areas. They can do the ground truthing and then do the planning. Maybe if it's not for agriculture purpose per se, then they can go in for tree plantations or whatever, or take help from DOR for land aid. So those kind of things will be very useful. Then there was another thing that was pointed out about the pan-India movement for agroforestry species. So MoEF is is collecting this data. So what latest we got is 27 states have exempted agroforestry species from transit rules, which are required for assistance under my scheme of agroforestry. And MoEF has also made a portal which is going to have pan-India movement of timber. So, and 21 states have agreed to have a pan-India movement for bamboo, which is of primary importance now, because once it has been removed from the definition of trees, you have other relaxations coming in. So once this pan-India movement starts, then it will be very good, and especially for the produce. We would not want so much of round bamboo to be moving across the country, because you will be, unnecessarily transportation cost will be very high. You would be transporting water actually, because if you're going to use green bamboo, if you're going to transport green bamboo for a industry which does not require green bamboo, then it's pointless. So that way we are kind of encouraging that primary processing should happen close to the farmland. And then the primary process produce should be given to the industry or moved elsewhere across states. So that was in a nutshell our takeaway from this. And congratulations to Terry once again. And we would like to have all the presentations as well as your full report so that we can go to more details. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And thank you all the panelists for their valuable and positive insights, which gave us a very new perspective that should be adopted while implementing the projects towards achieving the land degradation neutrality for India. We thank all our eminent panelists and also our participants for taking out time from their busy schedules. Especially for the participants, we will send you all the relevant link presentations after the event, including a link to the webinar recording and a certificate of participation. Thank you once again all.
And we will send proceedings of this webinar to all panelists, and after getting their suggestions and finalize the proceedings, then we will circulating to the all participants. So then if government wishes, so that on the basis of that if one would like to take certain decisions, so we'll do that also. So thank you so much. Thank you, Alka ji. Thank you very much for